Long before potatoes took over European kitchens, there was a group of unsung heroes in the medieval diet superfoods that powered people through harsh winters and tough growing conditions. Today, most of these crops have been forgotten, but one vegetable in particular might just surprise you: the humble parsnip. Before the 1500s, when potatoes crossed the Atlantic, parsnips were the reigning stars of European tables. These pale carrot-like roots were found in every medieval kitchen, serving as a versatile ingredient in dishes ranging from stews to desserts. Imagine French fries, but without the fast food joints. Parsnips were the medieval equivalent of comfort food, and they were everywhere. So why did medieval farmers grow so many parsnips? The answer is simple: resilience. While modern vegetables often need ideal conditions to thrive, parsnips were built to endure. They withstood harsh winters that would wipe out most crops and actually became sweeter after a frost. They're the only food in history that gets better when you ignore it. Unlike that forgotten stew at the back of your fridge, the parsnip's nutritional value made it an invaluable source of energy during the cold months. One medium parsnip contained about 100 calories, fiber, vitamin C, and potassium, essential nutrients for the hardworking peasants who needed to stay strong during long winters. In particularly brutal winters, parsnips could make up nearly a third of a peasant's diet. They were more than just a side dish, they were essential survival food. But what truly set parsnips apart was their versatility. Cooks mashed them like we do with potatoes, roasted them alongside meats, or added them to stews for richness and flavor. Their natural sweetness even made them a popular addition to medieval desserts. Talk about a root vegetable with range. But it wasn't just about flavor and nutrients. Parsnips were also a practical crop. They could grow in poor soil, unlike many other vegetables that required fertile ground to flourish. With their deep taproots, parsnips were able to reach nutrients that other crops couldn't. Farmers didn't need advanced techniques or perfect soil to grow parsnips. They simply thrived, making them the go-to food for medieval communities. In fact, parsnips were so important that they appeared in medieval taxation records. Farmers had to pay a portion of their harvest as tax to their lords or the church. Even monasteries maintained large parsnip fields, distributing them to feed the poor during winter months. They were such a lifeline that they could be left in the ground all winter, available to harvest when fresh food was scarce. But then potatoes arrived. With higher yields and easier storage, they quickly became the new crop of choice. In just a few generations, parsnips went from being a kitchen staple to a forgotten vegetable. It's like they were ghosted by European farmers after a 1,000-year relationship. But maybe it's time for us to give parsnips another look. They aren't the only medieval superfood to fade into obscurity. Emmer wheat, for example, was a crop that fed civilizations for thousands of years. By the time medieval times rolled around, emmer had already been cultivated for millennia, providing a hearty, protein-rich staple for farmers and peasants. It thrived in poor, rocky soil, exactly the kind of conditions medieval farmers had to contend with, and was packed with 30% more protein than modern wheat. This made it the perfect foundation for dense, nutritious bread, the cornerstone of the medieval diet. In fact, when grain supplies ran low, bread riots would break out. People took their bread seriously. The value of emmer was so high that it was often used as currency, with peasants paying their taxes in grain rather than coins. But as agricultural methods advanced, emmer slowly gave way to common wheat, which was easier to process. Over time, emmer disappeared from fields, leaving behind only its legacy in dark, nutty medieval bread that modern food historians consider superior to today's soft, bland loaves. Yet the toughness and nutritional benefits of emmer wheat could still help feed the world today, especially as we face unpredictable weather patterns caused by climate change. And then there's fava beans, one of the most important crops of medieval Europe. Long before modern meat production, fava beans provided the protein that powered the laborers who built castles, cathedrals, and kingdoms. These humble legumes were found on tables from the poorest peasant hovels to royal banquets, and their ability to produce protein in such high quantities made them invaluable. Unlike other crops, fava beans also enrich the soil thanks to their symbiotic relationship with nitrogen-fixing bacteria. This made them a perfect choice for crop rotation, maintaining soil health year after year. Fava beans were also incredibly versatile. They could be eaten fresh, dried, boiled, or mashed into patties. For medieval peasants, fava beans provided much-needed nutrition when meat was scarce. During Lent, when meat was forbidden, fava beans became even more essential, so much so that they were considered a kind of spiritual food. though some people suffered from a condition called favism, which caused dangerous reactions to the beans. Fava beans were generally a staple of medieval diets, crucial for survival in a world without refrigeration or modern medical knowledge. Another unsung hero of medieval agriculture was buckwheat, which grew so quickly that it could be harvested in just 10 to 12 weeks. Medieval farmers planted buckwheat as an insurance crop in case other grains failed. It grew in poor acidic soils where other crops struggled, making it the ideal emergency food. Buckwheat was used in everything from porridge to bread and even beer. Its high protein content and antioxidants made it a nutritional powerhouse that could help feed a population when other crops were still maturing. Yet buckwheat, like many other medieval crops, fell out of favor as agriculture industrialized. Its quick-growing, quirky nature didn't fit with the new agricultural standards focused on high yields and long-term storage. Today, buckwheat is enjoying a resurgence as a superfood, but back in the day, it was the humble backup plan that always came through when needed. Finally, there's Good King Henry, a hardy green that could survive the harshest winters. Known for its dark triangular leaves, Good King Henry was a versatile plant used in soups, stews, and stuffing. Its rich nutritional profile made it essential during the winter months when fresh food was scarce. Like a dependable friend who always shows up when needed, Good King Henry could be left to grow wild and would return year after year, providing sustenance without requiring much care. Sadly, Good King Henry also faded from modern diets, replaced by vegetables with higher yields and better commercial appeal. Yet its legacy remains in the memory of medieval people who relied on it to survive the harshest winters. In an era when climate change and soil depletion are challenging modern agriculture, it's worth reconsidering these ancient crops. They were the original superfoods, resilient, nutritious, and essential to human survival, long before anyone ever thought to market them as luxury items. From parsnips to emmer wheat, fava beans to buckwheat, these crops remind us that survival isn't just about yield and storage. It's about resilience, versatility, and the wisdom of those who knew how to grow food for a changing world. So the next time you encounter a parsnip fava bean, or even a humble loaf of emmer bread, remember that these ancient crops weren't just food, they were the building blocks of civilization. And perhaps, just perhaps, they're exactly what our future needs. Looking back at the crops and foods that sustained past generations, we not only see a story of resilience, but also realize that sometimes the old values are the key to modern challenges. Crops like parsnips, emmer wheat, fava beans, and barley help people survive harsh winters and scarcity. As we face challenges with climate change and soil depletion, perhaps these ancient foods could offer a part of the self-sufficiency and sustainability our ancestors once had. The most important lesson we can learn from these ancient foods is the power of patience and adaptability. While they may seem simple and overlooked, these crops have proven that when we form a sustainable relationship with nature, we can survive and thrive even in the harshest conditions. Much like the farmers of old, we need to learn to appreciate and seek out simple yet effective solutions to confront the challenges we face today.